On September 4, 1882, Thomas Edison threw a heavy switch in Lower Manhattan. 85 elite customers suddenly saw their offices glow with artificial light. Mainstream history books call this moment the birth of modern electrical wizardry. What nobody knew at the time was that this single switch ignited a global financial cartel war. It was never just a scientific debate between direct current and alternating current. It was a ruthless battle for structural debt monopolies and global infrastructure control. I am sitting in the Sovereign Archive, surrounded by the private ledgers of 19th-century financial dynasties. The architecture of the modern energy grid was carved out through secret debt pacts. Follow the money. The early electrical revolution did not start with an idealistic quest to enlighten humanity. It began as an aggressive speculation play on urban infrastructure. In 1878, Thomas Edison was not a wealthy man. He was a brilliant tinkerer who needed vast amounts of capital. He found that capital in the wood-paneled parlors of Wall Street. John Pierpont Morgan saw an opportunity to monetize urban energy. Morgan formed the Edison Electric Light Company alongside members of the Vanderbilt family. They poured hundreds of thousands of dollars into Edison's Menlo Park laboratory. The goal was not merely selling light bulbs. The ultimate goal was controlling the underground conduits of major American cities. Edison built his first power grid using direct current technology. Direct current operated at low voltage levels across short distances. Electricity flowed in a single direction, like water through a pipe. This physical property created a massive economic limitation. Direct current lost power rapidly over distance. A single power station could only transmit electricity for 1 square mile. Beyond that single mile, voltage dropped dramatically. Lights flickered and machines stalled. To power an entire city, an operator needed hundreds of individual power stations. Each station required real estate, coal generators, and massive copper cables. Think about that for a second. Edison's business model required an absurd amount of capital expenditure. Underground copper lines were enormously expensive. Direct current required copper conductors as thick as a human arm. The physical weight of the copper alone represented millions of dollars in sunken capital. Cities were forced to rip up streets to bury copper infrastructure. Only the wealthiest financial districts could afford such exorbitant setup costs. Wall Street bankers loved this initial capital intensity. High startup costs created an impenetrable barrier to entry. J.P. Morgan believed he could monopolize every city block in North America. By 1886, Edison had installed dozens of direct current central stations across the United States. His corporate structure relied on selling proprietary dynamos, lamps, and cables. Local utility companies had to pay hefty franchise fees to Edison's central holding company. The system functioned like a feudal real estate scheme. Local investors provided the capital to build the power plants. Edison's corporate entity collected ongoing licensing royalties on every kilowatt consumed. It was a closed loop designed to generate perpetual cash flow. The entire financial architecture rested on one single assumption. The industry assumed no alternative technology could ever replace direct current. That assumption collapsed when an eccentric immigrant named Nikola Tesla arrived in New York. Tesla had worked for Edison's Continental Division in Paris. He recognized the fatal physical flaw in Edison's low-voltage direct current grid. Direct current could never power rural regions, heavy factories, or distant suburbs. Tesla proposed a system based on high-voltage alternating current. In an alternating current grid, the electrical charge reverses direction dozens of times per second. This reverse movement allowed transformers to step up voltage for long-distance transport. High voltage could travel 50 miles along copper wires no thicker than a pencil. At the destination, another transformer stepped down the voltage for safe domestic use. Tesla presented his revolutionary patents to the scientific community in 1888. Direct current required a generator every single mile. Alternating current required only one massive central power plant for an entire region. Here's the thing most people don't realize. Alternating current was not just a scientific breakthrough. It was a total economic threat to Wall Street's existing copper holdings. If alternating current succeeded, Edison's urban power stations would become worthless stranded assets. Millions of dollars in copper cables buried beneath Manhattan would instantly depreciate. The House of Morgan faced a catastrophic write-down on its early utility investments. George Westinghouse recognized the disruptive economic power of Tesla's inventions. Westinghouse was an established industrial titan from Pittsburgh. He had already built a massive fortune selling pneumatic air brakes to railway cartels. Westinghouse possessed deep manufacturing capacity, liquidity, and a complete lack of fear regarding Wall Street. He purchased Tesla's alternating current patents for $60,000 in cash, plus stock and future royalties. Westinghouse immediately began undercutting Edison's franchise prices across rural America. Small towns that Edison ignored were suddenly electrified by Westinghouse at a fraction of the cost. The economic math favored Westinghouse in a brutal fashion. A direct current power plant required thick copper conductors to carry heavy amperage. An alternating current line transmitted high voltage and low amperage. Low amperage meant Westinghouse could use thin, cheap copper wire over vast geographic spans. His capital expenditure per customer was 70% lower than Edison's cost structure. Westinghouse was able to roll out electrical grids across entire states at unprecedented speed. The market cap of Westinghouse Electric began expanding exponentially. Edison's financial backers realized their monopoly was unraveling. J.P. Morgan demanded that Edison crush Westinghouse before alternating current captured the market. Edison did not attempt to out-engineer Tesla in the laboratory. Instead, he launched one of the most ruthless corporate propaganda campaigns in American history. Edison focused his attacks on public safety. He argued that high-voltage alternating current was inherently deadly to human life. Edison claimed that Westinghouse was selling a dangerous product to unsuspecting consumers. He warned municipal governments that alternating current wires would slaughter citizens in the streets. Edison secretly funded an engineer named Harold P. Brown to conduct horrific public demonstrations. Brown toured American towns electrocuting stray dogs, calves, and horses using Westinghouse alternating current generators. The goal was to instill visceral fear in the minds of municipal regulators. Edison wanted local politicians to pass laws capping transmission voltage at 800 volts. Such a cap would render alternating current technically useless over long distances. Pay attention to this next detail because it explains everything. The entire media hysteria was orchestrated to protect Edison's high-cost copper investments. The smear campaign reached its grotesque climax with the invention of the electric chair. New York State was looking for a more humane method of capital punishment. Harold Brown secretly purchased second-hand Westinghouse alternating current dynamos with Edison's money. He installed these dynamos inside Auburn State Prison. In 1890, William Kemmler became the first human humanely executed via high-voltage alternating current. Edison lobbied press reporters to refer to electrocution as being Westinghoused. He wanted the brand name of his chief economic competitor forever linked to state execution. And no, I'm not making that up. A major American industrial syndicate actively engineered an execution device to destroy a rival stock price. Yet, despite the gruesome propaganda, the underlying economic laws could not be stopped. Municipalities quickly realized that Westinghouse could power streetlights and industrial trolley networks for a fraction of Edison's prices. Factory owners realized that alternating current electric motors eliminated the need for dirty, expensive steam engines. Alternating current was simply far more efficient, far cheaper, and infinitely more scalable. While Edison was busy electrocuting animals, his own financial backer was preparing a cold betrayal. J.P. Morgan possessed no emotional loyalty to Thomas Edison or direct current. Morgan cared strictly about balance sheets, debt service, and corporate control. By 1891, Edison's corporate entities were bleeding cash while fighting endless patent disputes. The Edison General Electric Company was losing market share to Westinghouse every single quarter. Edison's insistence on defending direct current was ruining Morgan's return on investment. Morgan decided it was time to restructure the entire electrical manufacturing industry. Morgan began secretly acquiring shares in the Thomson Houston Electric Company. Thomson-Houston was a rival manufacturing firm led by a brilliant manager named Charles Coffin. Unlike Edison, Coffin understood that alternating current was the future of global power. He had quietly assembled a vast portfolio of alternating current patents. Coffin was a cold, calculating manager who focused on cost controls and aggressive marketing. Morgan realized that combining Edison's manufacturing scale with Thomson-Houston's alternating current patents would create an unshakable corporate leviathan. In early 1892, Morgan executed a hostile corporate consolidation behind Edison's back. He forced a merger between Edison General Electric and Thomson-Houston. The new entity was named simply General Electric. Morgan intentionally wiped Edison's name off the corporate masthead. Thomas Edison was stripped of his executive authority and sidelined within his own company. He was left with a minority stock position and deep personal humiliation. Wall Street had used Edison's prestige to fund the initial infrastructure rollout. Once the technology matured, the financiers cast the inventor aside to capture the ultimate industrial monopoly. With General Electric under Morgan's direct control, the corporate war shifted into its final, decisive phase. General Electric owned a massive portfolio of patents, but Westinghouse still controlled Tesla's core polyphase patents. General Electric launched an all-out patent litigation offensive against Westinghouse. The strategy was simple. Morgan used his vast banking lines to drown Westinghouse in legal fees. Every time Westinghouse sold an alternating current system, General Electric sued for patent infringement. The goal was to tie up Westinghouse's liquid capital until his corporate bonds matured. By 1893, the American economy plunged into a devastating financial crisis known as the Panic of 1893. Hundreds of banks failed, railroad cartels went bankrupt, and credit markets froze completely. This crisis was weaponized by Wall Street investment houses. Morgan and his allied banking syndicates restricted commercial credit to independent manufacturing firms. George Westinghouse found himself in a desperate cash flow squeeze. He had millions of dollars in outstanding short-term debt, but no investment bank would refinance his notes. It was during this liquidity crisis that the battle for the 1893 Chicago World's Columbian Exposition took place. The World's Fair was designed to celebrate the 400th anniversary of Columbus arriving in the Americas. The fair organizers wanted to illuminate the entire site using electricity. It was the largest lighting contract in world history up to that point. Winning the contract meant presenting a company's electrical system to tens of millions of international visitors. It was the ultimate marketing showcase for the future of global infrastructure. General Electric submitted an initial bid to light the fair for $1.8 million. They believed Westinghouse was financially crippled and incapable of competing. General Electric controlled the manufacturing of all incandescent light bulbs under the Edison patent. They assumed Westinghouse could not supply light bulbs without facing an immediate legal injunction. However, George Westinghouse refused to capitulate to Morgan's cartel. Westinghouse submitted a surprise counterbid of just $550,000. It was a suicidal undercutting tactic designed to keep his factories running. General Electric immediately secured a court injunction blocking Westinghouse from using Edison's traditional glass light bulb patents. Westinghouse responded with astonishing industrial speed. He designed a completely new two-piece stopper bulb in a matter of weeks. The stopper bulb bypassed Edison's patents completely. Westinghouse hired thousands of glassblowers to produce hundreds of thousands of new bulbs before the fair's opening day. When President Grover Cleveland pressed a gold button on May 1, 1893, the world's Columbian Exposition erupted into a brilliant sea of light. Nearly 100,000 alternating current bulbs illuminated the famous White City. Tesla's polyphase alternating current generators powered massive fountains, electric railways, and giant industrial motors. Tens of millions of awestruck visitors witnessed the safety and magic of alternating current firsthand. The public propaganda campaign against alternating current died that night in Chicago. Westinghouse proved that alternating current was safe, reliable, and capable of powering a megacity. Yet, winning the public relations war in Chicago did not resolve Westinghouse's acute financial crisis. The Wall Street bankers were closing in. Westinghouse's major investors demanded an immediate financial restructuring to avoid bankruptcy receivership. The board of directors informed Westinghouse that he had to eliminate his heaviest future financial liabilities. The largest single liability on Westinghouse's books was his royalty contract with Nikola Tesla. Tesla's original patent assignment contract granted him $2.50 per horsepower of alternating current generated. As alternating current expanded across North America, that royalty contract was set to make Tesla one of the wealthiest billionaires on Earth. Westinghouse traveled to New York to meet with Tesla in person. He laid out the cold financial truth. If Westinghouse remained bound to the royalty contract, Wall Street banks would force the company into liquidation. General Electric would buy up the assets for pennies on the dollar. The alternating current system would fall entirely into Morgan's hands. Here's the thing most people don't realize. Tesla did not tear up his contract out of naive foolishness. He tore it up because he believed in a higher scientific mission. Tesla tore up a contract worth hundreds of millions of dollars to keep his friend out of bankruptcy. He gave away his wealth so that his alternating current system could set humanity free from physical drudgery. Westinghouse survived the banking crisis, but Tesla surrendered his financial leverage over the energy grid he had personally invented. The ultimate prize of the War of the Currents was not a city, a fair, or a factory. It was Niagara Falls. For decades, industrial engineers had dreamed of harnessing the immense hydraulic kinetic power of the Niagara River. The energy flowing over Niagara Falls represented millions of untapped horsepower. Whoever could capture that power and transmit it to distant manufacturing hubs like Buffalo and New York City would control the industrial heartland of North America. In 1890, a group of international financiers established the Cataract Construction Company. The syndicate was backed by the most powerful names in global finance. It included J.P. Morgan, William K. Vanderbilt, Edward Dean Adams, and the European banking houses of Rothschild and Banque de Paris. They created the International Niagara Commission, chaired by the famous British physicist Lord Kelvin. Initially, Lord Kelvin declared that transmitting alternating current over long distances was physically impossible. He advocated for transmitting power using compressed air or direct current cables. Tesla and Westinghouse knew that compressed air and direct current were completely useless for such a massive project. They spent 3 years lobbying the Niagara Commission with rigorous mathematical calculations. By 1893, after witnessing the triumph at the Chicago World's Fair, the International Niagara Commission capitulated. They awarded Westinghouse the contract to build the giant alternating current generators at Niagara Falls. General Electric was awarded the contract to build the high-voltage transmission lines and substations. The Niagara Falls Power Station went operational in November 1896. Massive Tesla-designed polyphase generators transformed the thunderous force of falling water into pristine electrical current. The power was transmitted over 22 miles of thin copper lines directly to Buffalo, New York. Factories, streetcars, and homes were energized instantaneously by a distant waterfall. It was a stunning technological victory that permanently altered human civilization. The era of localized steam engines was dead. The age of the centralized electrical grid had officially arrived. I am looking down at the confidential restructuring ledgers of 1896 inside the Sovereign Archive. What nobody knew at the time was that Wall Street had already prepared the ultimate corporate trap. George Westinghouse won the Battle of Niagara, but J.P. Morgan won the war for ownership. General Electric and Westinghouse Electric signed a comprehensive patent pooling agreement in 1896. They agreed to share their core alternating current patents without further litigation. The two former mortal enemies formed a quiet, comfortable duopoly that controlled 95% of all electrical equipment manufacturing in the United States. Think about that for a second. The intense, bloody battle between inventors resulted in a textbook financial cartel. The public was told that competition had delivered cheap electricity to their homes. In reality, Wall Street had carved up the entire nation into non-competing service territories. If you are enjoying this deep dive into the hidden financial mechanics of global history, make sure to subscribe to the channel right now. Your subscription helps us unearth these secret banking ledgers and bring the cold economic truth to light. The establishment of centralized alternating current grids laid the structural foundation for modern industrial capitalism. Before electricity, factories were forced to locate near rivers for water wheels or near coal mines for steam engines. Factories were built vertically around a single, massive central steam drive shaft. Pulleys and belts transferred physical mechanical power across multiple floors. This arrangement was extraordinarily dangerous, inefficient, and spatially constrained. Alternating current grids liberated industrial manufacturing from geographic and spatial limits. Small electric motors could now be attached directly to individual machines on a factory floor. Factories expanded horizontally, creating the modern assembly line. Henry Ford's revolutionary assembly line was only possible because alternating current delivered flexible power to thousands of independent electric motors. Industrial productivity surged by hundreds of % within a single decade. The rapid expansion of the electric grid required unprecedented amounts of raw materials. Chief among these materials was copper. As alternating current grids blanketed North America and Europe, global copper demand exploded. Banking syndicates that owned the electrical manufacturing monopolies began quietly acquiring copper mines across North America, South America, and Africa. The war of the currents directly fueled the corporate scramble for global mineral resources. Financiers like Amalgamated Copper, backed by the Rockefeller and Morgan interests, cornered copper production to extract immense profits from utility companies. The utility companies simply passed these inflated material costs directly onto the public through guaranteed electricity tariffs. The energy grid became a permanent, self-sustaining financial siphon. It transferred wealth from millions of working-class households into the balance sheets of holding companies and mineral cartels. By the early 1900s, a new financial architect emerged to take Morgan's utility model to its logical extreme. His name was Samuel Insull. Insull was Thomas Edison's former personal secretary and business manager. After Edison was pushed out of General Electric, Insull moved to Chicago and took control of the small Commonwealth Edison Utility Company. Insull recognized a fundamental law of utility economics known as the load factor. Electrical generators are expensive capital assets that incur fixed costs whether they run at full capacity or sit idle. Insull realized that if he could keep his generators running 24 hours a day, his average cost per kilowatt-hour would plummet. To achieve this, he aggressively merged hundreds of small, independent utility companies into massive regional monopolies. He offered dirt-cheap electricity to industrial factories during the day and to residential streetlights at night. Pay attention to this next detail because it explains everything. Insull invented the concept of the public utility holding company. He built a towering, complex pyramid of corporate holding companies. A top-level holding company owned controlling shares in regional holding companies. Those regional entities owned local utility operating companies. By using multi-layered corporate leverage, Insull controlled a $3 billion energy empire with just a few $1 million of actual personal capital. Insull's corporate pyramid powered 39 American states. His holding companies issued billions of dollars in stocks and corporate bonds to middle-class retail investors. Wall Street promoted utility stocks as the safest investment in North America. They were backed by the steady, mandatory monthly electricity bills of millions of citizens. For 2 decades, Insull was celebrated as an industrial hero who brought cheap power to rural America. The financial pyramid worked perfectly as long as the broader economy continued to grow. However, when the Great Depression struck in 1929, industrial power demand collapsed overnight. Insull's operating companies could no longer generate enough cash flow to service the massive debt loads of his top-level holding companies. In 1932, Insull's $3 billion utility empire crashed into spectacular bankruptcy. It was the largest corporate collapse in American history up to that point. Hundreds of thousands of ordinary citizens lost their life savings in Insull's leveraged holding company stock. The collapse of Insull's utility empire revealed the extreme systemic danger of financializing basic human infrastructure. President Franklin D. Roosevelt launched a sweeping federal investigation into the power cartels. Roosevelt declared that private utility holding companies were extracting unfair private taxes from the American public. In 1935, Congress passed the Public Utility Holding Company Act. The legislation broke up the giant, leveraged utility pyramids into regulated, geographically isolated local operating utilities. Government regulators established the modern Utility Commission framework. Under this system, private utility companies were granted legal local monopolies. In exchange for this monopoly protection, their profit margins were strictly capped by state regulators. The rate of return was tied directly to the amount of physical capital infrastructure the utility constructed. Follow the money. This regulatory formula incentivized utility companies to build massive, highly expensive central power plants, whether the grid truly needed them or not. The architecture of the energy grid chosen in the late 19th century shaped the geopolitical trajectory of the 20th century. The decision to build centralized, high-voltage alternating current grids required massive, centralized generation facilities. First came coal-fired thermal plants, followed by massive hydroelectric dams, oil-fired stations, and eventually nuclear reactors. Power generation became intimately tied to global fossil fuel supply chains and state-backed financial syndicates. If the world had adopted decentralized microgrids, local energy independence might have flourished. Instead, humanity was locked into a centralized infrastructure model that required constant corporate management and sovereign debt financing. Centralized power plants required centralized capital. Centralized capital required powerful central investment banks. The grid became the ultimate instrument of economic control and social regulation. Consider the physical reality of a modern nation-state. No modern economy can survive more than 48 hours without a continuous flow of high-voltage alternating current. Hospitals, water treatment facilities, banking servers, communication towers, and supply chains instantly freeze if the grid fails. Electricity is not merely a commercial commodity. It is the invisible nervous system of modern industrial society. Today, we are witnessing a structural repetition of the war of the currents. The global energy transition of the 21st century mirrors the exact financial dynamics of the 1890s. The shift toward renewable generation, high-voltage direct current interconnectors, and decentralized battery storage is triggering another titanic battle for infrastructure control. Once again, massive financial cartels are vying to own the new energy architecture. The surging power demands of artificial intelligence supercomputers and vast data center farms are stretching existing alternating current grids to their absolute physical limits. Tech monopolies are now bypassing traditional utilities entirely. They are buying up nuclear power capacity and building private, dedicated energy transmission lines. The modern tech giants are acting precisely like J.P. Morgan and George Westinghouse in 1893. They recognize that whoever controls the energy supply for computing power will dictate the future of global economic sovereignty. The historical lesson of the war of the currents is remarkably clear. Technological superiority is a necessary condition for success, but it is rarely a sufficient one. The battle between Edison, Tesla, and Westinghouse was not decided by pure scientific merit in an academic void. It was decided in the backrooms of Wall Street investment houses, through predatory debt squeezes, patent cartels, and corporate consolidation. Tesla gave us the physics of the modern world, but J.P. Morgan built its corporate ownership structure. Edison lost his name on the company he founded, but his corporate legacy of centralized monetization endured. Westinghouse survived the financial gauntlet only by shedding his visionary commitments to his chief inventor. The energy grid we use today is a physical monument to those 19th century financial compromises. Every time you flip a light switch, charge a smartphone, or power up a computer, electricity flows through an alternating current network designed by Nikola Tesla. But the bill you pay at the end of every month flows directly into a financial model engineered by J.P. Morgan. The physics belongs to science, but the grid belongs to capital. I am slowly closing this leather-bound archive folio and turning down the low green banker's lamp inside the sovereign archive. The technology evolved, but the underlying financial playbook remains completely unchanged. Drop a $sign in the comments if you see the pattern. Subscribe now, and click the next video on your screen to follow the money deeper into the hidden ledgers of global power.